Hi guys and welcome back. About 2 years ago, FiiO revealed their flagship K9 Pro DAC Amp combo, which was selling for $850, and around 8 months ago they revealed a more affordable unit which was called K9, which dropped that MQA playback and also flagship ESS Sabre silicon for a more affordable price point of $500 US. Both K9 and K9 Pro over time became classic products because you can see them basically everywhere, and in truth they sounded really good for the price. And it was only a matter of time when AKM silicon will find its way into the same chassis, and after months of fine polishing and fine-tuning, finally the AKM version of the K9 is ready to be revealed with a marginal price increase to $529 US. But is it any good? Let's find that out. I'm happy to report that we have absolutely the same fully CNC machined aluminum unit, and if you ever tried that K9 or K9 Pro, this one is really no different. We have heat dissipation holes. The USB-C input is finally back, that was present on the K9 Pro, and this is basically the only thing that differentiates the ESS version from the AKM version. It's very hefty, it's very well built, nothing is wobbling around, and personally I like how it looks and how it feels in my hand. The only plastic pieces that you'll find on this unit are those buttons on its front panel and also the volume wheel, but in truth nothing is really bothering me because everything else feels like a proper hi-fi material. Checking out these controls, I have a strong deja vu moment because in truth it looks like the K9 and K9 Pro. We have 3 headphone jacks, out of which 2 are balanced outputs. We have a volume wheel, several switches and a few buttons which lets you choose a desired digital input, its working mode and also its gain. On its back you'll find 3 digital inputs as USB, optical, coaxial, including a Bluetooth antenna socket. It has RCA and 4.4mm analog inputs and the usual RCA and XLR analog outputs. Under its hood, things are looking very similar with that K9 Pro and with the regular K9, with one major difference is that we no longer have that flagship ESS Sabre silicon, but flagship AKM silicon, and that is AK4499EX, with the recommended AKM Delta Sigma modulator. What's more interesting is that the dynamic range went up on average by around 4 to 5 dB, meaning that this one should sound slightly clearer. And also the noise floor went down from 7 microvolts to around 5 microvolts on this one, meaning that it should work even nicer with ultra-sensitive loads like IEMs. Its headphone amplifier circuit is pretty much identical with that of the K9, so we have the same THX AAA modules, those 788+, which are providing up to 2 watts of power per channel in 32 ohms and 780 milliwatts of power in 300 ohms. The USB Type-C input, which was present on the K9 Pro, is now back, so we have in total 2 USB inputs. We have the same flagship Bluetooth receiver that supports all those fancy codecs like LDAC and aptX adaptive. We have the same linear power supply, which provides clean and abundant power on the spot, and of course it supports the same sample rates thanks to a powerful XMOS chipset. Before I tell you how it sounds, FiiO is also offering a really nice app which is called FiiO Control App that lets you adjust some additional features. For example, you can enable UAC1 driverless mode that lets you connect a gaming console via USB. It worked just fine via a PlayStation 5, and if you like to game with increased power and clarity, then of course you can do that via K9 AKM. You can select a desired Bluetooth codec, the digital input, and there is even a parametric equalizer option that lets you adjust the frequency response and save the preset for future use. There is a low-pass filter and a channel balance option, plus a user guide is also available that reminds you about every feature, input and output it provides. For the gamers out there that will be using this one in front of a PC, then you should know that thanks to an XMOS digital receiver, which basically controls every digital input like those two USB, optical and coaxial, you will never experience lip sync issues while playing or watching a movie. Its sound is always in sync, the input lag feels non-existent, so you can game casually or professionally. And since the sounds are much clearer versus a regular sound card, you might have a better experience playing your games. When I do not want to disturb my wife and my son, then I'm usually watching a movie or I'm listening to music in my office. And I must say that the K9 AKM never disappointed in any of these scenarios. Sound-wise, if you ever tried the K9 ESS or K9 Pro ESS version, then you know exactly what to expect from the K9 AKM, because this one is basically the same with a minor twist in terms of tonality. So the former units I am described as colorless, as distortionless, as very clean sounding, as highly resolving at their respective price points, so being always highly technical sounding, fast, punchy, engaging, and so on. This one is really not different, so it's exactly as clean, exactly as punchy, exactly as technical, but this one tries to slightly beautify my music, so it favors warmth and sweetness and naturalness in detriment of ultra-linear sound or ultra-flat sound in a way. You'll need at least several hours of music playback until the unit will become punchy and engaging, but after passing the 50-hour mark, then this one will always be quite fun and engaging sounding with basically any planar headphones and dynamic headphones as well. The former K9 and K9 Pro ESS wanted to impress with lots of cleanliness, everything sounding extra clean, perfect in every possible way, with fast response times, with fast dynamics, without trying to alter the frequency response in any way. But this time around we have a bolder tonality, a slightly longer decay of the notes, more meat on the bone, more texture with acoustic music, while gently expanding the sound and putting additional layers of it. I used to own plenty of THX AAA amplifiers, and I believe I had some of the best ones, culminating with the benchmark HP4 headphone amplifier and with two AHB2 power amplifiers. And I can definitely say that K9 AKM has similar traits and similar skills that I can pinpoint, like an absence of distortion when going much louder, like absence of the noise floor when using ultra-sensitive IEMs, and also an eerie silence in between the notes, like the notes are born out of thin air. The only thing this little guy is not doing to my former THX AAA amplifiers is to artificially boost the perception that there is more detail happening, especially in the treble. So for me personally, that's a big plus, because finally I can look somewhere else. I can focus on something else, on maybe on a beautiful soprano voice, on that amazing mid-range, on an amazing guitar solo from inception to decay, and something that I couldn't do so easy, for example, on that HPA4 or AHB2 amplifiers. We have a sensation of ease, of calmness, and luckily this one is not putting me on high alert with every musical genre, only with the tunes that demand my full attention, like electronic tunes, for example. And while this one is far from being a laid-back or mellow sounding unit, there is a little bit of that that works with a wider variety of headphones, something that I cannot say about the regular K9 ESS or K9 Pro ESS. So yeah, the tonality is right now much closer to a fully discrete unit. We have a little bit of warmth, and that's a big plus in my book. Power-wise, we have absolutely the same headphone amplifier section with the K9, so if you want to know more about this one, then I will heartily recommend checking out my K9 and K9 Pro reviews. But in less than a minute, I can tell you that except for the HiFi Vara, everything else worked outstanding on the K9 AKM. Yep, including the HD800S by Sennheiser, and also that army of planar and dynamic headphones. I had enough headroom on top, but most importantly, it was never running out of breath, choosing to be fun and engaging as opposed to dead serious and ultra linear. I have complained about the former K9 ESS and K9 Pro ESS in terms of soundstage, depth and imaging, because they were always sounding closer to my face somehow, so not exactly an out-of-head experience, not exactly at an arm's reach, and those didn't impress me that well in this regard. I believe that fully discrete amplifiers, class amplifiers, tube amplifiers of all sorts are much more impressive in this regard, with all kinds of headphones. And I'm sorry to say it, but basically all THX triple amplifiers are sounding like this. So mostly 2D, not really holographic, not very airy, not very extended. But this DAP swap with the K9 AKM is slightly improving the air in between the notes. The image is a little bit bigger, the sound is a little bit deeper, and I can feel that especially with live records. So what was a strong 6 out of 10 in terms of soundstaging capabilities is now a 7 out of 10. So not that bad, not that great. Alive by Ajit, for example, plays with my imagination a little bit. We have her voice exactly in the middle, and we have backing vocals interplaying with each other, jumping from left to right. The drums are much deeper in the recording, and the harp and acoustic guitar are gently appearing out of nowhere at higher altitudes. So yeah, the AKM version is offering a little bit of magic in this regard. The extra point that K9 AKM just won in terms of soundstage and imaging, it lost in terms of dynamics and transients versus the K9 and K9 Pro ESS. While it's not really lagging behind versus its competition, especially at this price point, it wasn't exactly as tightly controlled and snappy sounding and fast sounding like the K9 and K9 Pro ESS. For some, this might be a plus, for some, this might be a minus. For example, if you like to relax while listening to music, then for you that will be a plus. But if you like to have the tightest grip over headphone drivers, the fastest sound, especially with some electronic tunes, then you might like the K9 ESS a little bit more. While dynamics didn't go down per se, it still provides a strong punch in the lowest octaves. It has a slightly longer decay of the notes, and that might add a sensation of muddiness, especially with lightning fast tunes. This fellow still feels comfortable punching my eardrums with all sorts of electronic tunes, so please don't worry, if your headphones are capable of unleashing the thunder, then the K9 AKM will be revealing its ugly face in no time. Now to the absolute best part of this unit, the clarity of the sound, or the so-called detail retrieval, which is actually quite impressive, almost on the same level with pricier units like AUN S9C, like Tapping DX9 and many others. So regardless of what digital input I'm using, it always sounds clean, distortionless, having a strong contour of the notes, strong leading edges, trying to impress with sharpness, with everything that is happening on the micro scale. So yeah, this is a highly resolving sounding unit, even at this price point. If you like hearing all the bad stuff, all the good stuff coming from your tunes on the micro scale, then this unit does it so easily. It don't really need even expensive interconnect cables or power cables, it does it by default. And this kind of performance is usually reserved for expensive DAC amp combos, but as technology is moving forward, you no longer need to pay a top dollar for this kind of performance. You'll be hardly pressed hearing a difference in terms of detail retrieval between this one and K9 Pro, and this makes the AKM version a very good deal in my book. Moving on to frequency response, the bass is quite physical, it's lively, it's punchy, maybe not the fastest for sure, not the most layered bass, so the quality of the bass, it's not exactly on the same level with K9 ESS, but in terms of heft, it's definitely on the same level. And some bass light headphones like Meze 109 Pro or HiFi Ananda Nano will feel rejuvenated with this kind of visceral and physical bass performance. The Achilles heel of the K9 ESS and K9 Pro was definitely the mid-range region, which was uninteresting for my taste, quite flat, not so emotional, not so engaging, very clean, highly resolving, but I didn't want to listen to a lot of acoustic stuff on the K9 and K9 Pro. Something that is not happening on the K9 AKM, so I feel that the mid-range in terms of frequency response is basically the biggest improvement with the AKM version. There is a little bit more life in here, there is a little bit more texture, more density, more color, call it as you want. And I know that subjectivity plays a big role in here, but I do believe that mid-range should never be thin, lifeless, or boring. The treble performance that was mastered by the K9 ESS and K9 Pro is definitely here as well, so it's exactly as detailed, it's exactly as extended in the upper treble. You can hear everything very easily, you don't need to, stress yourself too much, but there is a small difference in terms of sharpness, in terms of leading edges, because this one is not as sharp, is not as strong, is not as contoured in this regard, and for me that's a plus because I can relax even with a few rock tunes, something that K9 Pro was never doing. It's not really on the same level with something like a fully discrete class amplifier or single-ended trioed tube amplifier that adds so much grunt texture while taming the brightness, but it tries to be like that. It tries to be a little bit more lifelike compared to K9 Pro. Finally working with a wider variety of headphones like HiFi and beyerdynamics. Wrapping up, the AKM version basically trades a little bit of bass speed and tightness with a little bit of sweetness, with naturalness, with a slightly bigger sound, a deeper sound as well. That might excite a wider variety of headphones like closed back headphones. The USB-C input is now back, so you don't need some additional cables to use it with your laptop. We have the FiiO Control App that adds additional features. It even works with gaming consoles, which broadens its use cases considerably. So far, this is one of the most natural sounding desktop units that FiiO has ever made, while trying to maintain a price point that people could actually afford. We have nicer measurements, a higher dynamic range, a lower noise floor, a more pleasing tonality, so subjectively and objectively speaking, I do believe the AKM version is slightly better compared to the regular K9, so that slight price increase is fully justified and it gets my stamp of approval. Thank you guys for watching, please consider subscribing if you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!